May the 4th be with you. The breakdown starts now. Good evening and welcome to The Breakdown. I'm Tara Setmayer. This is the Rick Wilson, and we are thrilled to be back with all of you. Yes. So I have heard that this is the Rick Wilson. We are thrilled to be back with you. There's a lot to get to tonight. We've had a news-filled 2 weeks since the last time we were all together. And today is Happy Fuck Around and Find Out Thursday. So we're glad that you guys are spending it with
yes,
us.
It
is. So we're going to get into the Proud Boys conviction today because that's the big news. And of course, obviously, we're thrilled around here that happened. There's been more Tucker Carlson fallout. I mean, this guy is just when you think he can't get any worse, he does. We've got some 2024 news. The Trump-DeSantis rivalry is really coming to a head, and DeSantis hasn't even declared yet. I mean, it's like the biggest political self-own already. He's just the worst. So we're going to talk some about that. Maybe a little debt ceiling if we get to it, and a couple other things because there's so much going on, Wilson. But let's start, please, with the Proud Boys. I am thrilled to see these seditionist, traitorous bastards getting convicted, and they will spend time in prison. Finally, justice is being served for January 6th.
You know, the phrase stand up and stand by for your cavity check, stand up and stand by to have your cell tossed, stand up and stand by for your 1 hour a day in the yard, stand up and stand by to wear a scratchy orange jumpsuit for the next several years. All those things, I hope they're standing up and standing by for them right now. Because stand back and stand by, because I could not be enjoying this shit anymore if I had it with icing on it. These little fuckers, these little incel dipshit weirdos, they thought, we're the masculine vanguard of Western civilization. No, you're a bunch of lowlife criminals who are a street mob, and you're going to prison for trying to overthrow a democratic, free, and fair election. Ha!
They better stand up and not drop the soap. Yes, this is something that I think we've been waiting for now for over 2 years. And the idea that Enrique Tarrio, who is the leader of these Proud Boys, I mean, you had the Oath Keepers, a bunch of them get convicted earlier, a couple months ago, and the head of them, Stuart Rhodes, and now Enrique Tarrio, who talked all that shit. Right? They talked all big shit. They walked around and, cosplaying like they were military guys and tough guys. And meanwhile, they were literally in the middle of conspiring to incite an insurrection and carry one out. And the courts have decided all of the defendants were convicted of at least one count punishable of up to 20 years in prison. That's the seditious conspiracy charge. And for all of those people at Fox News and in the right-wing media ecosystem, the Brit Humes of the world and others who were like, oh, why they keep calling it an insurrection? No one was ever convicted. Right. No one was convicted of sedition.
What could be going on there?
Right. Well, Glenn Greenwald and all those guys. Now, they can all fuck off because guess what? Not only have they been convicted, 14 people have been convicted of it. And sedition and insurrection are synonymous, people. So, F you.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Thank you for playing. You'll be now going to federal prison.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
By the way, as I said in the video today from the car, and by the way, I got my ass out of bed this morning. I was on the road at 6 o'clock. I drove 300 and some odd miles, picked up a piece of antique furniture, and drove 300 some odd miles back just to make it in time for you people tonight. And I'm a little caffeinated.
How many Diet Cokes did you pound on that trip? How many?
9.
Oh my God, Rick! Please don't have a heart attack on air.
No, I'm not. Listen, I'm good. I'm like actually remarkably healthy, which is kind of the terrifying thing.
That's good.
It's all the mileage. Only 42 years old now. Listen, but these guys have gotten they've gotten to the end of the rope where the bullshit of the right-wing media bubble collides with the reality of criminals. Who have done things in service to a conspiracy. Now, as I said on my video today in the car, I'm happy they're going to jail. I hope Jack Smith is doing the work and building and building and building this case. And I hope you Proud Boy bitches, already Terrio was already a snitch, by the way. I hope you Proud Boy bitches understand that your only hope now, your only hope of mitigating your circumstances, and it's still not too late, is to start squealing on the motherfuckers north of you in the food chain. That means Stone, Bannon, all the other weirdos and dipshits around the whole set of meetings that were going on at the Willard and elsewhere, because it doesn't matter if you think it was just a tangential relationship. You can escape federal prison by helping put other people in it. Hope you're thinking that through there, guys, because as tough as your bullshit is right now, you don't get to go home and jack off at night and watch and play with your Xbox and watch Pornhub when it's over in federal prison. You are the Pornhub.
Wasn't that some kind of ritual for their initiation into the Proud Boys? Remember we were talking about that with
there was some whole thing about
some kind of weird masturbation thing.
Yeah, I don't even.
So gross, but anyway, well, you went there with it.
Honestly, if we start talking about masturbation on the show, it's just going to go way off the rails.
Yeah, well, I think we've started off the rails already.
Off the rails that state and federal authorities may be involved. So we're going to leave that.
Lord. But back to Terrio, he's still a bit defiant, and some of these people are still defiant. He's been doing jailhouse interviews, and he actually contradicted his own. He didn't testify in his own defense, by the way, probably for a good reason. And his defense attorneys, they blame Trump. They said, "Listen, Trump was the one who gave the order. We went based on Trump's, orders." And Terrio still embracing the hardline Trump claim that he was being used as the next stepping stone. Quote, this is from the Washington Post today. It said, Terrio embraced hardline Trump backers' claims that he was being used as the next stepping stone to, quote, get to Trump, who was running again for president. Quote, they're trying to get to the top and they're trying to manipulate the 2024 election. That's what Terrio said from his jail cell. It's unbelievable, these people.
People get to say a lot of shit from their jail cells. What they don't get to do is go out and have a beer or get a steak or vote.
Well, for those who didn't see the news earlier today, of course, Lincoln Project put this rapid response video out to show you the announcement. Run it.
We begin with breaking news. A partial verdict has been reached in the trial of 5 Proud Boys leaders stemming from the January 6th attack on the Capitol.
On the top charge of seditious conspiracy, at least 4 of the defendants have been found guilty.
This group was essentially responsible for engaging in some of the most planned, organized assaults against law enforcement and organizing the entry into those barricades at the Capitol that resulted in all the violence at the Capitol on January 6th.
Take that house! Take it now!
The group includes Enrique Tarrio, whose defense attorney told the jurors yesterday it was Donald Trump's words, his motivations, his anger that caused what occurred on January 6th.
You want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
white like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
Damn, that was a good one.
It was good. I mean, we have a great team. A great team.
We have a great team.
Just so folks understand the exact charges: seditious conspiracy, which is plotting to oppose by force government Congress's certification, conspiring to obstruct the congressional session, and actually obstructing the proceeding. So those were some of the charges there that they were found guilty of. And then they were acquitted of a couple other lesser charges. And there was a hung jury on one of the guys, Pizzola. He was still convicted of the seditious conspiracy part, but some of the other things. But it doesn't matter. The most important things they were convicted on: seditious conspiracy, insurrection. This is important. And now the question I have, Rick, going forward, though, you mentioned it a little bit about Jack Smith, the special counsel. I'm still obsessed with the fact that he looks like Coach Beard from Ted Lasso. And you watch Ted Lasso? Please tell me you do.
I've watched
Oh
the first season. I don't really pay much attention to it.
Oh
though.
my gosh, you've got to watch. It's one of the greatest shows ever made. It's fantastic. But anyway, for those who are Ted Lasso fans, Jack Smith freaking looks like Coach Beard. But anyway, now that we had reports this week that he's looking into video evidence that they have at Mar-a-Lago of who took what and where concerning these documents. And Pence, I think, went in to testify. Scavino, I think, had to testify recently too. So it's going up the chain here. We still haven't heard where the hell Mark Meadows is. Is he in the witness protection program or what? Because Mark Meadows is at the center of all of this too, including this, the meetings at the Willard and all of these text messages, the Ginny Thomas stuff. Like Mark Meadows is at the epicenter of a lot of this stuff.
Oh
too.
yeah, Mark Meadows also tried to get Bill Barr to investigate the Lincoln Project.
Yes, that's right. Speaking of that, quick aside. Both of you and I were at White House Correspondents Weekend events. Yep. You got to go to the dinner. You're cooler than I am. So you got to go to the dinner. You had an encounter with Mr. Barr. Please tell the story.
With Mr. Barr concerning my feelings toward Mr. Barr.
Tell the story.
Well, I saw him and we went to town a little bit. And I basically said, look, you were trying to overthrow this government. You sat back and did nothing. And he sort of like left. Well, you'll need better luck this time. I'm like, bitch, I don't need luck at all. We got skill. We beat him once. We'll do it again.
Exactly.
That was not the only encounter I had this weekend. We also saw the ghastly Kellyanne Conway.
Oh my God.
That was you can read about that in the New York Post.
Did they publish the story?
Oh, she went after Molly Jong Fast, and I was standing right there, and she was like going to town on her, and it just like.
The nerve.
Every bit of misbehavior you could imagine and like grotesquerie you can imagine. It's like these people look the way they do, and their aura is what it is. Their like vibe is what it is because they're just terrible human beings.
Just awful human beings. And also, you told me that she looked like she was on death's door. She was I'm going to step back for 1 second. She legitimately looked like she was about to die. She looked awful. But I will say this, just for a brief second about the White House Correspondents' Dinner, there were so many reporters before that dinner that were like, I don't know, man, this could be bad. Biden could fuck it up and it would end his campaign, don't you think? He's so old, he's so weak, he's so tired. And he goes out there and fucking knocks it out of the park, grand slam home run performance. Everyone in the room was like, the fuck was that? Oh my God. Listen, I was thrilled because like I said, I didn't go to the dinner, but I watched it because I went to a bunch of the parties, which is really where all the fun happens. And so
I was at enough of the parties too.
Yeah, you have to recover. It takes like 2 days to recover, but give us a break. It's our like Oscars weekend in DC. We get it once a year, But I was watching it before I went to the party for the Griot, and where Diana Ross performed. By the way, she was fantastic and looked.
I heard about that.
Looks great. And I thought, I was just like, please let him do well, because I've seen Biden at his best, and I ran into the First Lady at one of the events. I posted those pictures to social media, and she's just absolutely lovely. I adore her. Everyone knows this. I have a personal reason why that I will not state publicly, but she's just delightful. And I told her that Lincoln Project is there 100% to defend Biden and make sure they get reelected and to defend democracy against Trumpism. And she appreciated our efforts. But I was
the same thing.
Yes, the second gentleman, and you in the second gentleman had a nice encounter as well.
Yeah, saw him.
And I was so thrilled to see Biden in his element, just knocking it out of the park, because the expectations were so low for him, unfortunately, and he far and away exceeded it. And if you did not get a chance to see it, of course, Lincoln Project put together a fabulous Biden Zingers video, so you can see it all in a minute and a half. Roll it.
This dinner is one of the two great traditions in Washington. The other one is underestimating me and Kamala. After all, I believe in the First Amendment. Not just because my good friend Jimmy Madison wrote it. You might think I don't like Rupert Murdoch. That's simply not true. How could I dislike a guy who makes me look like Harry Styles? The same over the hill. Don Lemon would say that's a man in his prime. I love NPR. because they whisper into the mic like I do. Not everybody loves NPR. Elon Musk tweeted that it should be defunded. Well, the best way to make NPR go away is for Elon Musk to buy it. I had a lot of Ron DeSantis jokes ready. But Mickey Mouse beat the hell out of me, got there first. After his re-election as governor, he was asked if he had a mandate. He said, hell no, I'm straight. Look, y'all keep reporting my approval rating is 42%. But I think you don't know this. Kevin McCarthy called me and asked me, Joe, what the hell's your secret? It's great that cable news networks are here tonight. MSNBC owned by NBC Universal. Fox News owned by Dominion Voting Systems. Last year, your favorite Fox News reporters were able to attend because they were fully vaccinated and boosted. This year, with that $787 million settlement, they're here because they couldn't say no to a free meal. And hell, I'd call Fox honest, fair, and truthful. Then I could be sued for defamation. Tonight he asked me to keep it short. He even offered me $10 if I'd keep it under 10 minutes. That's a switch, a president being offered hush money. Roy, the podium is yours. I'm going to be fine with your jokes, but I'm not sure about dark Brandon.
Yes.
I will tell you,
Yes.
the room lost its damn mind with the Dark Brandon.
Oh, I know they did, because that was brilliant to lean into something that they tried to become, make a negative and make fun of,
Right.
of Biden. They leaned into it. They embraced it. Same thing with his age, cracking jokes about him, him and Jimmy Madison. And it was fair. The Fox jokes were brilliant. And of course, my
So the
friend,
Fox people were sitting about 2 tables away from where we were.
yeah.
And there was a lot of like,
Oh, they can
a
fuck
lot
all the way
of
off.
their like grumpy discomfort,
No,
whatever.
too bad. Okay,
Although
too bad.
at one point, Ducey laughed at something and everybody else at the table was like looking at him like, oh no, the snitches will find you.
Right. Oh my gosh. And the joke about being in his prime and Don Lemon, and since the last time we were on air, right? Tucker got fired, and so did Don Lemon on the same day. It was just like a tectonic shift in cable news, crazy news that day.
I saw Don around town this weekend.
Yeah.
In Washington. And Tucker's down in his Tunker bunker, and Don's like tearing it up around town.
Don's living his best life. He was at the parties.
I think he's living his best life. I truly do.
Don is living his best life. He went to the Time 100 dinner. He came down here to DC for the festivities, didn't go to the dinner. And he was at the Knicks playoff game. I'm a big Knicks fan, so we're thrilled the Knicks are in the playoffs in the second round. And he was there at the Knicks playoffs game having a blast. Look, Don is a friend of mine. I adore him as well. And he gave me my first real shot in cable news. If it weren't for him, I never would have been signed with CNN. So I'm forever grateful to Don for that opportunity. And I feel that there's a lot going on, but it was not everything. Don't believe everything you read is all I'm going to say about that. I don't know the Don Lemon that they're trying to portray there, what CNN is trying to portray to excuse the fact that Chris Licht is completely destroying the legacy brand of CNN. So I just wanted to say that about my good friend Don Lemon. And I wish him
I have trouble with a network right now that's saying we need more Donald Trump and less Don Lemon on our air.
Right, exactly. Because they're now going to have, if people haven't heard, CNN is actually holding a town hall with Donald Trump next week. This is insane. And Caitlin Collins is the moderator. God bless her. She's 31 years old. She's a talent, but we all know what's going to happen here. They're not going to ask him a series of tough questions because they want access to him.
Donald Trump in real time, because while you're trying to do that, he's taking a shit on the stage. He's dancing naked. He's screaming and howling.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't.
I don't care who you are. I don't care what your level of imaginary skill is in interviewing or in journalism. You can't control that situation. It's a lesson that has to be learned apparently over and over again, because apparently the lesson of stove is hot, do not touch hot stove was forgotten after 2016.
Yeah, it really is political Groundhog Day with Trump, and it's just so disappointing what's happening over there at CNN. And of course, we'll be watching it with great interest to see how they handle it. But regardless, they should not be platforming him and giving him the opportunity to spread all of his bullshit. But we'll see what happens. Which leads me to the Tucker Carlson stuff. Yes, Tucker was fired last week, and it just continues to get worse and worse. Now, no one seems to know exactly why.
Or better.
Well, yeah, worse and worse for him. Better for democracy and truth, but worse and worse for him. And I just don't understand this, because Fox is, the fallout from the Dominion case, everyone's kind of reeling now, and there's all of this discovery evidence that is now getting leaked to journalists, and these Tucker texts. At first, we thought he got fired because he called one of the Fox executives the "see you next Tuesday," and then we were all kind of like, "Come on, that didn't get him fired." I mean, yes, it's horrible, but let's be honest, this is Fox News. Come on. Now we saw the other night this week that a text was released where he talks about fantasizing about an Antifa protester being killed, and says how, he was watching a video of these guys beating up an Antifa guy, and he hoped that they killed him. But then that's not how, quote, white men fight. Whatever the hell that means. And this allegedly was this horrific tweet that Fox didn't want to come out in other trials, so they decided to get rid of him. I'm still not convinced that was the main reason either, because the guy talked about racist stuff for like 4 years.
Bullshit on that. I'm sorry, I'm calling bullshit on that.
I don't
Something ain't right with that excuse either, because let's go back and look at who Tucker's staff was for years and years and years. They had to fire a couple of these guys that worked for him because they were active on like 4chan and racist chat boards.
Yes.
And were these alt-right dipshits. This is exactly who Tucker's been. And the idea that this is somehow brand new news to the Fox management, get the fuck out of here.
Exactly. And for those who haven't seen the text message that we're referring to, LP decided to do an AI rendering of the actual words. These are Tucker Carlson's actual words that he texted to his producer. I believe it was on January 7th, 2021. And we used the technology of AI to bring it to life. Take a look.
A couple of weeks ago, I was watching video of people fighting on the street in Washington. A group of Trump guys surrounded an Antifa kid and started pounding the living shit out of him. It was 3 against 1 at least. Jumping a guy like that is dishonorable, obviously. It's not how white men fight. Yet suddenly I found myself rooting for the mob against the man, hoping they'd hit him harder, kill him. I really wanted them to hurt the kid. I could taste it.
Now, there is a second part to those texts where he tries to self-reflect and go, maybe that's really bad and I don't like who I'm becoming, blah, 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 blah. But Rick, I know a lot of people are asking, well, why didn't you include that part in the text message? So here's your opportunity to explain it.
First off, let me say a little bit about artificial intelligence and generative AI, as it is called. You guys have all heard about it now, ChatGPT, of the graphics, things like Midjourney and Stable Diffusion. There's an explosion of AI-related tools right now sweeping across technology and the economy. So these are a reality now. They're not something we're imagining. We're not something we're fantasizing about for the far, far future. They're a reality right here, right now. Last week, Donald Trump's campaign released a AI-generated ad that showed Joe Biden laughing after an attack on Taiwan. Now, AI can duplicate anybody's voice. They can duplicate look and feel. They can produce it into video now. It is still an emergent technology, but it is a legitimate technology that we're going to all have to deal with. And at the Lincoln Project, we are going to face bad actors using AI for both video and audio. So you can expect robocalls when Joe Biden's voice saying, don't vote for me, vote for Donald Trump. You can expect a lot of craziness coming. We're going to play by a certain set of rules with AI. We're not going to invent things unless it's in an obvious parody or a satire of words people are saying. So inferentially, I might think Tucker might say the N-word, but I'm not going to make an AI ad with him saying the N-word unless it's on the record somewhere. This isn't a vetted piece of actual material. So we felt using Tucker's voice, which was shockingly easy to do, to read his words was an important way to communicate the loathsomeness of those words, an important way to communicate exactly what he believed and wrote. Now, the second part of this is we didn't include another paragraph of Tucker saying, I don't know how I feel about this, blah, blah, blah. Fuck off. I'm not obligated to do anything like that. Political advertising is not obligated to show the opponents of democracy and freedom and liberty and the republic in the most positive light you can. Sorry, way it goes. I'll give you folks an example. You've probably seen Republican ads where Hillary Clinton says, what difference does it make? After she's been asked a question from Jim Jordan or someone saying, don't you know the Benghazi 4 were done? Well, they took that clip from something 7 hours apart from the political advertising is a rough game. It's a rough business. We stick to the rules. We stick to the facts. Even if people don't believe the facts, and sometimes the fact checkers don't believe them. Like we got dinged by a fact checker this year saying Trump was using the election fraud money, the election recount money for his own uses. Oh, well, it turns out we were right. But in this case, I'm not obliged to make Tucker seem like less of a racist fuck nugget because Tucker's a racist fuck nugget. I'm not obliged to make him seem like a good guy.
Right.
I picked out a quote because that's not how white men fight. The guy was practically sexually aroused by these people beating the shit out of somebody.
So
it's
awful.
weird. It's fucked up.
And
I'm sorry. If we shine a light that's painful for people on the right when they see one of their heroes, and we had some people on the right like, how dare you do this? How is it deceptive? It's what he fucking said.
Right. It's what he said.
And if we had typed those words on the screen using as a graphic and not use the original text message, the intent and the message is still the same.
And the accuracy is still the same.
It can be used for evil to clarify something so people understand what this country is up against.
That's right.
Off my soapbox.
No, I'm glad that you said that because people need to hear it. They need to hear it. And I also think it's good for people to understand what goes into the calculus that goes into the content that we produce and why we do it. And, sometimes people also ask like, well, where are the ads? How come we don't see them? And, some of these ads are placed digitally, they're geofenced, they're targeted to specific areas. We have a Fox ad.
Yeah, I mean, look, Tara, exactly right. This is something people don't understand. They're like, why don't we see all the ads? Well, because let me give you an example. Our target audience is on what is called the Bannon line. The Bannon line is between 7 and 11% of persuadable voters in the Republican Party voting pool and the independents who lean conservative. We are very good at talking to those people. We are very good at persuading those people. We did it in 20. We did it in 2022. We are extraordinarily precise in how we talk to them and target them. And the Bannon line, folks, just so you know, was invented by Steve Bannon. Yeah. In 2020, he said, if those assholes can take between 3 and 8% of the Republican vote, Trump can't win. And our response was, hold my beer. The Bannon line voters that we target all the time, we'll go into one neighborhood of people. We'll go in, if we have a group of 60,000 people we identify, sometimes they'll just get the ad on their phone.
Right. And that's the way it goes now because of the way technology is, because of the access people have on their phones, because of digital advertising, even it's also more cost effective as well. I mean, we're not going to drop $5 million for like Nike or, some major Coca-Cola or something for 3 30-second ads on primetime television over and over and over again. Right. I mean, we have to be strategic with where we place those ads because the money you donate goes to making them and placing them. And so it's not, so just so folks understand that. And here's an example of one of those ads. where there is an ad buy, but it's very highly targeted because the Fox viewers are all apoplectic about Tucker's firing, and there's a mass exodus going on. They're going to Newsmax. They are hemorrhaging viewers.
And so when you watch this ad, remember, most of the folks watching this show tonight, this ad wasn't meant to hit you.
Right. It's not meant for you.
This ad was meant to hit somebody else and to cause the maximum pain and disruption.
Mm-hmm.
You trusted Tucker. You trusted Fox. And now, Rupert Murdoch has canceled Tucker and is purging conservatives. This hurts the MAGA movement. It hurts Donald Trump. It hurts you. Where are you going to go for real reporting now? Real news about wokeism, Antifa, drag queen dangers, COVID treatments, our important Russian allies, news on George Soros, and the dangers of white replacement. Fair and balanced? Not anymore. Maybe they've given in to Washington rhinos. Maybe Paul Ryan or Mitch McConnell got to Rupert. Maybe it was Ron DeSantis. All of them hate Trump with a burning passion. But now, Tucker's gone. Why are Republican candidates still kissing Rupert's ring and giving him millions of dollars for ad space? It's time to say we're done with Fox News. Fox has gone woke. Now, they need to go broke.
Drag queen danger.
Imagine yourself out there in the areas where, and we're actually, that ad's kind of an experiment right now. Mm-hmm. Normally we don't advertise to the MAGAs. Mm-hmm. Normally when someone says, well, how are you going to change the mind of the guy in the red hat? My answer is, I'm not going to do a fucking thing for that guy. He's lost.
But this is like a moderation of the audience of one strategy, right, where we're trying to sow some chaos here because Fox is in a vulnerable position, and we all know that they're looking to replace Tucker because they're not going to course correct. They're not all of a sudden, they didn't have a come to Jesus moment and go and realize, oh my gosh, we're horrible people and we're destroying democracy and we're undermining institutions. So we're going to all of a sudden become honest brokers.
Are you hearing that shit about Katie McElwackey taking that job at 8:00?
I saw that and I just thought to myself, oh, so they're going to bring one of the, like this lying bitch and put her on the 8:00 hour now to experiment to see if she can handle it. She is my battles with her are epic in 2016.
Oh, yes.
CNN. Folks, if you want to, get hyped up and remember how just disgusting and duplicitous she is, go Google me and Kayleigh McEnany CNN. It's all out there. But they're putting her on. They tried, what's his name? Kilmeade. But you know who's really auditioning for that?
By the way, she tried me one night on Bill Maher, and she's like, "Well, white people experience just as much racism as black people." I'm like, "The fuck are you talking about?" She's one of those people who is an attention whore who had no experience whatsoever, but because she was a cutesy blonde and would say anything and do anything to be on television and get into the Trump orbit, she did. So that's all the oxygen I'm going to give her. But the person who's really trying to audition for that role is Jesse Waters. We already know that he's trying to replace Tucker, and Fox has no problem with the horrible racist, xenophobic things that he says all the time. There are a bunch of misogynist racists over there because if they were course correcting or somehow they learned a lesson with firing Tucker, then they would fire 80% of their on-air talent, including Jesse Waters and the rest of them. So I'm not holding my breath that there's going to be anything different going on over there at Fox. This is just window dressing. DeSantis, speaking of Fox. So DeSantis was Fox's alternative, and he was the it guy for a little while there until he wasn't. And it has been a disaster, folks, an absolute disaster for Ron DeSantis the last couple of months. I mean, we predicted this, but we are sick of being right. And here we are again. Rick, oh my gosh, you're in Florida, you're in Tallahassee. The murmurings going on between the donors saying that they're done with him, to the people in Tallahassee pissed off that he went overseas. I've never seen anybody say that. You and I both seen it. We've been through presidential campaigns where they say midway through the campaign, it needs to be retooled and reorganized. I've never seen an exploratory campaign that isn't even announced. They haven't even announced the exploratory committee where the donors are like, no, you fucked it up. You got to reset the whole thing. You got to start over.
And he hasn't even announced yet. I tweeted out that this is the biggest political self-own I've ever seen of a candidate who hasn't even announced yet. Because we were joking that he was in like Scott Walker territory. Scott Walker was the it guy back in the day, and then he lasted all of 74 days. DeSantis is crashing and burning so badly before he even announces. The Trump people are just dragging him. They're dragging him.
They're just tearing him limb from limb.
And spending money to do it.
Every day. And here's the thing. I just wrote a piece tonight for Resolute Square about this. It's called A More Serious Threat. The Trump's campaign team is much better this time.
We've been telling people that.
It's not the clown show of Corey Lewandowski and Kellyanne Conway and Brad Parscale and whatever other dipshit wandered out from the back of the bus station.
Right. The
now
golf
they're
caddy.
smart people. And they're beating DeSantis around the head and shoulders because he is not a good politician. He has had a legislative session in Florida that is for what he thought he was doing. They were successful, but for the people of Florida, they hate it with a burning passion.
He doesn't care because he can't run again.
He's treated like a fool traveling around the world. People mocking him in his big debut on the world stage. People mocking him in Israel, mocking him in the UK. It was this guy just absolutely screwed the pooch.
He did. Well, I'm not even a candidate yet. I'm not declared. Like, what was that?
That head nod.
That's a tell for him. You can show that is like it's a tick because it's the same thing he does when he gets thrown off kilter and he thinks he's going to be snarky or something and he doesn't quite know what the answer is. That's what he does. But that was like overly pronounced. Yeah. It was almost like the Dean scream. Weird,
Right. It was the guy is so robotic and so fake and so weird, and nobody buys it.
No,
it's just like once you get outside the bubble. And one of the things that a donor to DeSantis that got back to me, that a donor from DeSantis said, the guy's just not natural. He's just not right. He just doesn't have the thing. And, I was going to give him this amount of money. And then the 6-week abortion ban happens, which the donors hate because they're all pro-choice and their wives are all Planned Parenthood. Let's be honest. All of it just fell apart. And the guy's terrible at the work. You can't be bad at the work.
We said this. Did we not say this? We have been saying this for months that he's a terrible retailer.
Over a year.
That's right. He's a terrible retail politician. Once people start to get to know him, they're not going to like him. They're going to see what an awkward, arrogant jerk off that he is. And sure enough, he is on full display. And he's making the quintessential mistake of allowing his opponent to define him. And Trump's campaign people, like you said, Rick, they're a lot more experienced. And he has Susie Wiles, who used to work for DeSantis and who has it out for him because they did not end well. So she knows what buttons to press. There's a secret
that Ron DeSantis has one advisor.
Yeah, his wife.
It is his wife, Casey. And there are now mutterings even amongst their friends and allies like, well, what if the problem isn't just Ron? What if the problem is her?
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Michelle just pointed out to me in the notes, the first time I brought it up, that DeSantis was an overpriced stock was in 2021 on Bill Maher.
Yes, that's right. That's how long. That's how long. Here we are. And it's just getting worse for them. So, we'll see. And on top of that, Disney is suing him. Remember 2 weeks ago, we warned, don't fuck around with Disney.
Listen, Disney shits lawyers at a rate that Ron DeSantis could hire every lawyer in Florida, and Disney could shit out 1,000 of them a day and throw them at the problem.
Yeah. So
the structure of the Disney lawsuit, from what a smart attorney said to me the other day, was a work of art and a very clear sign that they understand how federal contract law and state contract law works, whereas Ron DeSantis understands how Tucker Carlson works. And that was one of the things, by the way, one of the big losses of this week that's sort of underappreciated is Ron DeSantis was basically telling people, I'm going to win the Tucker Carlson primary. I'm going to win Fox News primary. I'm going to take care of this because I've got Rupert and Tucker on my side. Well, again, you and I predicted this. You said this months ago. The minute Trump started getting back in the game, Rupert's audience would force him back into Ron, away from Ron and back to Trump. Sure as shit. Here we are.
Here we are. Every time Fox News has tried to move away from Trump, they've hemorrhaged viewers and decided to have to go back to being horrible people. And every single time. And even now, $1 billion out,
just more horrible.
Right. Well, yeah, more horrible. Almost $1 billion out now, and they're still doing this because they know that they cannot. Because Donald Trump is up by 30 plus points in most polls now. Again,
Emerson College, Monday of this week, 54-16 versus Ron DeSantis among likely Republican voters.
Yeah, it just keeps getting worse. It keeps getting worse like this. So again, this is just not good news for DeSantis world, and we're sitting back and loving every minute of it.
Yes.
Really just quick, because I know people are talking about it this week, but we're not going to get too much into this policy fight, but just a note to pay attention, because it will continue to come up, is the debt ceiling fight. And, we're seeing now that predictions are it needs to happen early June before, or else we're going to default. Some folks were thinking it might be July. And the ball is now in the court, really, of the Democrats and Biden. And it's very important how they handle this. We cannot allow a default. And the Republicans did a show vote this week, or was it this week? I don't know. This week or last week. Last Friday. Last week, yeah. With a debt ceiling bill proposal or whatever that have poison pills in it. They know that it's a non-starter in the Senate. And just one note, how serious this is. They're willing to tank the economy. They are willing to do this because it's all about owning the libs. And a CBS poll came out that showed that the top quality that Republican voters are looking in their presidential candidate is owning the libs. So they don't care about tanking the economy. They don't until it affects them. And then they go, oh shit, how do we get here? The director of national intelligence today, Rick, said that our enemies, Russia and China, will exploit this and use it as propaganda against the U.S. to say, look, their
100%.
capitalist system doesn't work.
100%.
And so it's a national security threat on top of everything else. So we're going to keep paying attention to this. But what the Republicans are doing is playing with fire, and they don't give a fuck if they tank our economy. You need to think about that. All right. So we want to say something, too, because another thing that happened since the last time we were on, before we go, is a big thank you to everyone who voted for us at the Webbies, because we won. We won 2 Webby Awards for both categories that we were in, the one for Ukraine, the Fight for Democracy campaign, and for Never Again, which honored the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, narrated by the great Peter Coyote. Big, big thank you to everybody for that. Rick and I and the creative team and others, we will be in New York in a week and a half or so at the Webbies to accept those awards, but we could not have done that without you guys. We want to say thank you so much for that. And also the Pollies. The Polly Awards, some folks may not be as familiar with that, but the Pollies are kind of like the SAG Awards, Oscars of political advertising. And Lincoln Project picked up 7 of those. And Michelle Kinney,
our own creative director, Michelle Kinney, represented us out there
in
beautiful Palm Springs.
Indeed, she did.
And I think she surprised a lot of the funny part. Michelle told us a story about a lot of the Republicans that were out there getting awards were like, oh God, we love you guys. We hate Trump, but we have to still work for him to keep the mortgage paid.
Yeah, we have bills to pay. And we're like,
just following orders, sir. Anyway, that was we're very honored by the support of everyone that allows us to put out this work to try to move America in the right direction, both in the big picture of the narrative of where this country is going, and that allows us to do this work to kick the hell out of bad guys because somebody needs to do it, and to do this work to persuade voters to make the right choice, even if it's not from their initial instinct, where their initial head might be, to help us persuade folks that are not evil, who don't want to be in part of a Republican Party that represents the kind of things you see from the Proud Boys and from Tucker and from the Trump world and from the darkness that these people have embraced over the years. We can't do it without you guys. We are deeply, deeply grateful. These awards are for you too.
That's right.
They're you've helped us put together to go out there and push back and to fight this fight for some light in the darkness of authoritarianism that's around all of us. And we're deeply, deeply grateful for everyone and for your ongoing support. Couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much.
100%. Big thank you from us to you guys. And check out Rick Wilson's podcast, The Enemies List. He always has cool guests. And Rick, of course, you get to hear him unvarnished on his podcast. So make sure you check out The Enemies List.
Yeah, I might even say the word fuck from time to time.
Well, a time or two.
I don't
Right. And on that note, we're going to leave you with our in memoriam to Tucker Carlson. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Or one out.
Fox News Media and Tucker Carlson have mutually agreed to part ways. Tucker's last show was this past Friday.
You take a collection of dumb, desperate people in middle age, hoping to keep on to their stupid TV jobs. You add scripts and some hairspray, and they just repeat the lies for you. It was not even close to an insurrection. Nicotine frees your mind, and THC makes you compliant and passive. Testicletane, that's crazy.
Talking to Trump is one of the great joys, one of the great animal joys.
Iraq is a crappy place filled with a bunch of, semi-literate primitive monkeys.
Shut up, racist!
Our civilization is superior. Let's pretend for a sec that our country had a news media that was interested in bringing you the news. What were these sheep doing when you apprehended them? They call you the egg hustler. Leprechauns exist not just on cereal boxes. M&Ms will not be satisfied until every last cartoon character is deeply unappealing and totally androgynous.
I love women, but they're extremely primitive. They're basic.
I gotta go. You should stick to the thigh-high boots. You're better at that. Maybe the orange M&M is a secret sexist himself. Your mask is making me uncomfortable. Why shouldn't I root for Russia, which I am? I'm not a Putin defender, despite what you may have heard. The end of the Lincoln Project. We can all celebrate that.
We want to thank Tucker Carlson for his service to the network.
I'm sorry, I just got to take a quick break and go cry in a closet while squeezing a stuffed animal. Rick Wilson? Ugh.